Folks, what is going on? That's right, it's me, Red Queen, aka Cowbox, aka the latest and greatest triple legend. I've got my Uwu sword, I've got my T shield, and I have the UCoB title, which I got from beating sort of this guy, not really, not the level 50 version. I did the ultimate version, which I'm here to talk about today. Let's get out of this instance because I cannot listen to this song anymore. That is the worst version of just some bad music that I had to listen to a lot recently. So, much like I did with Uwu, much like I did with T, I just wanted to do a stream where I took a video of my clear of some extremely hard content and just explain it to the people who are interested in that content but don't have the time, energy, ability to do so. So let's just hop right into it. I'm gonna turn off the volume in here and I get everything open that I need to get open. I got my chat, I got my video. I need to actually open it in OBS. One of these days I'll be prepared in advance. Today is not one of those days. I just remembered some things I wanted to have prepped ahead of time, and I don't. But we'll deal with that when we get there. We'll see how it goes. Turn down my microphone just a little bit. And music. So, UCoB is, in my opinion, the hardest of the three fights by far. I'll hold off on my overall opinion of this terrible fight until the end, but let's at least get through the mechanics on the way there. It is the hardest, it is the longest, and it starts off with Twintania, an extremely slow and boring first phase of this 18 plus minute fight. I feel so. My T stream took like at least an hour and a half because there's so much going on in that fight. My Uwu one, I think, also took like an hour and a half, which was frankly longer than I expected. Hey Sizzle, what's going on? Sizzle in chat. He is the astrologian in this party. I want to say UCoB is probably going to take less time to explain than the other two. It is the hardest fight by far, but also there's not a lot of mechanics going on in the fight. It's just extremely janky and fucked up and hard. So let's just dive right into it. Twintania, we're about to breeze through in no time at all. When does the friggin' countdown on this pull start? Okay, there's the countdown. So Twintania is honestly only going to do like 3 things. So right out of the gate, you can see we're actually pulling her from the side. Like, hold on, I want to try something fun and new that I have set up just for this stream. I'm going to get very little use out of this, I imagine, but I just want to try it out. So you can actually see that we're pulling her from the side. Normally, in a lot of pulls, you would start like over here. Just pull them straight in the middle. Look at that. I'm a sportscaster now. We're actually pulling her from the side. We're pulling her at an angle. We have these 3 markers set up. Let me get this out of the way so I can paint a little better. We've got a marker down here. We got a marker over here. We got a marker over here. We want to drag Twintania to here, and then over to here, and then over to here. That's going to happen throughout the course of the fight. Twintania is interesting in the sense that he's one of the very few bosses in Final Fantasy that you can push and skip mechanics. Like, you can skip mechanics in other fights, but she has like specific breakpoints in her phase. Let's just play the video and just get to it, so and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we're pulling her at an angle because we want to get her onto the 1 marker right out of the gate. Tank's going to point her north. Everyone else is going to get behind. Immediately, Twintania does... Oh, shit. There. I pause. It didn't go off. Twintania does this tank buster. Plummet. It has no cast bar. It just comes out. It has like this cone in front of it. So you don't want to be near the tank when this goes off. Then she does probably her most iconic mechanic, Twister. It is a disaster mechanic and nobody likes it. We're all spread out. So you can see like we're all just like a little bit apart from each other. As soon as the cast bar goes off, everyone moves somewhere, whether it's in, further out. In this case, we all move in because there is additionally a stack marker. So what the twisters are, let's see if we can find one. There's one right here. Where else do we see another twister? I don't see another twister on screen. 4 random people get targeted by twisters, and you can't really see them at the moment just because they're all probably off screen or hidden by other things. This twister here, its hitbox is pretty small, but if you step in it, you instantly die, and everyone in like this big explosion around, so probably like even bigger than that probably, are also instantly killed. So they're extremely dangerous. They show up under 4 completely random people. If you have no way of controlling who they show up under. So that's why everyone needs to spread out and just move. Just assume that you are going to be one of the people targeted for it and don't walk near anyone else. In this case, we're all moving in because we have this stack marker here, which you may remember from UWU. Pretty much the same deal. It's just everyone stacks together and shares that damage. In this case, we're only getting like 5 people in this stack marker because we're fishing for LB generation. Much like in UWU, I mentioned that the damage scaling at current level 70 is so much more crazy than it was back in the day. You do so much more damage at level 70 now than you did. I just realized my screen. I need to just extend it a little bit, just a tad. Nope, not that. Come on. There we go. There was like a little bit poking under the bottom. It was bothering me. You do so much more damage right now at level 70 than you do it back in the day. So we're about to blast through Twintania phase, and if we go too fast, we're not going to have the LB we need later in the fight. So that's why we only have 5 people in the stack, so they take more damage, so we can heal more damage, so we can generate more LB. Once that goes off, there is a second tank buster, this time with a cast bar. This is Death Sentence. When it goes off, you can see that the main tank, who is not me, it is Naga, gets afflicted by this this debuff. This is a heavy slashing resist down, so if she takes pretty much any auto from Twintania at that point, she dies. So that's why I am taking the boss. Twintania still turns. It's like, look at this bullshit. I provoke here, halfway through the cast bar, at like 92-36 into the fight. I've already provoked. I am in control of Twintania. Naga gets hit. Naga moves out of the way. Twintania still turns to follow Naga. It's like 5 seconds later at this point. It's ridiculous. All the bosses in this fight do this. They stay stuck to the person that they were targeting a minute ago. It's extremely annoying. Anyway, I get hit with another untelegraphed plummet, and then since we push her to 74% of her HP, we instantly push to the next quote-unquote phase. She would have more mechanics to do here. Normally, there would be another twister, another stack marker. She'd pretty much just repeat her process. Twister, stack marker, probably another death sentence, I don't remember. You don't go that far. But she just goes in like a loop until you push her to a certain amount of HP. In this case, it's 74. When she drops to 74% HP, you'll see after I reposition her. So I am going to reposition her, like I said, to this marker over here. I need to do it pretty quickly because she locks in place pretty frequently. You can see back behind her. Right, I'm not like properly set up to do this whole sportscaster thing. There's this neurolink behind her in the marker that we originally left her at. What this is a thing that if you stand in it, you just deal way less damage. But there's a very specific mechanic that requires you to stand in it and take an attack that would otherwise kill you. So I pull Twintania as much as I can onto this marker. Let me get rid of these dots. She starts to use Liquid Hell. So what this is you can see over here on the side, she is dropping these fire puddles here, right? The way this works is there's like this donut range around her, sorta. It's hard to kind of contextualize. She sort of targets the furthest player away from her in this big donut area around her, but if there are more than one players out in that range, she'll target them randomly. So you only want one person out in this sort of outer ring. You want everyone else to be closer. Because if you have like two, even if one person was here and one person was here, even though this one is still technically the furthest one away, she can pick either one randomly. So it's a bit it's a bit janky and fucked up, just like everything else in this in this fight. The liquid puddles, they don't do any damage when you get hit by it, but if you stand in it, it puts an extremely ridiculous dot on you and it will kill you. She's now using Generate. You can see Set over here is being targeted by this purple triangle. That means he is the chosen target for this orb underneath Twintania. This is a hatch. What's going to happen is once this cast bar is done filling, this orb is going to travel and just follow the person with the purple triangle. If the orb touches the person in the purple triangle, or anyone else, the orb will explode, and if they were not standing in the Neuralink that I pointed out earlier, they will die. Just straight up die. Regardless of where they are standing, the orb will also explode, and anyone standing near it will die. So you can see Set is going to take off and go into the Neuralink back there. The orb now travels. And boom, there's like this green explosion you can kind of see behind Twin. There's going to be a pretty running theme here of it's hard to see what's going on because the bosses in this fight are kind of big. But there's this green explosion. He has eaten the hatch successfully. He also gets this debuff, which means he cannot take a second one, but that's fine. He's not going to get targeted for a second one right now. That's a story for another mechanic, like 10 minutes from now. She does another set of Liquid Hells. We've already seen everything she does. She does another set of Liquid Hells. She does another Death Sentence, which is a tank buster. So I am now debuffed. You can see that my debuff marker is extremely big on my screen for some particular reason. It may be because there's a section of this fight that debuffs become very, very important, and I was getting tired of losing track of them, so I blew them out to 200% and put them right next to me. That's weird. I'm sure that's not what happens. She does another Generate. In this case, she targeted Mickey. In this case, she's actually doing a Twister at the same time. So yes, Mickey does need to be inside this Neuralink to take the hatch. However, she also needs to make sure that she's not dropping her Twister in the Neuralink, right? Because if she stays there and the Twister goes off, she's just going to die. So she needs to stand outside of it first and then move into it, just in case she dropped a Twister. Twintania's going to do another plummet. Oh, no, we skipped it. We did enough damage. So like 43, 42% is the next push point. And then we drag her over to the next marker. So we can drop the third one here. She does another set of Liquid Hells, targeting, again, the furthest player away. We're all spread out because there'll be... actually... okay, so now when she does Generate... She's doing it here. She actually generates 2 hatches. So you can see Mickey over here and Leon are both targeted for hatches. So now that we have 2 Neuralinks, they need to coordinate between the 2 of them. I'm going here, you're going there. As this is going on, she actually does one of the only set of random Liquid Hells. This Liquid Hell doesn't target the furthest player away. It just targets anyone randomly. In this case, it also happened to target the person who has the stack marker. That's pretty unlucky. It doesn't normally work out that way. Usually it's just some random person gets liquid hell and drags it away while everyone else stacks up to take this marker. But now Leon has the responsibility of making sure he baits all of the liquid hells appropriately, but then still stacks up with us in time. So it was easy for him because he's physical ranged, but it can be a bit annoying for other characters. He does another death sentence, which is another tank swap. He goes into another plummet, which is the untelegraphed tank buster. That is a conal one. Death sentence is not cleave, it's fine. She does another generate with another 2 hatches into another twister. She does another liquid hell. This is all just, a lot of Twintania is just looping through the same 3-4 mechanics. So it's not that hard to understand. We got through Twintania in our first day of doing UCoB. The next phase, not so much. So she drops her 3rd Neuralink. We now have 3 to work with. This isn't going to really be a thing until, like I said, like 10 minutes later in the fight. We really don't use these until much later. We are standing inside of it right now, but it's not because we need to stand inside the Neuralink. It's just because it happens to be the appropriate distance away for the following mechanic. I'm going to stop this music because we gotta get the appropriate theme on. It's Nael's theme, so immediately one of these Heavens Fall, I believe they're called, towers, drops down and knocks everyone back from the marker to the wall. If you get knocked into the wall, you die. That's all there is to it. If you're too close, you take too much damage and you die, because it does do proximity damage. As everyone's running around to position themselves, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 thermionic burst markers all show up. They'll either spawn in this configuration or the next configuration. They're always split up by like pies like this, but there could be this one going straight through the north, or it's the ones that are currently in the empty spots. It's random between the two, and then it just alternates. You know what I mean. It's easy to dodge, don't sweat it. At the same time, though, there's also these meteor streams going off, these like 4 dives. It targets 4 random people and then another 4 random people. The same person doesn't get hit twice unless someone happens to die. If someone does die, someone is going to get hit by 2 of them. But if no one dies, then everyone is only going to get hit once. If you get hit by one of these thermionic burst AoEs, oh, you're gonna wish you fucking died. It's probably not gonna kill you, but Jesus fuck, you get paralyzed for like 45 seconds. It's a paralysis that cannot be cleansed, and also it is the most aggressive paralysis I've ever seen in this video game. It is ridiculous. You're gonna clip like every GCD. It's insane how powerful this paralysis is. I pop my invulnerability because right after that finishes, Nael dives on the main tank. I was the person who was in control of Twin as her phase ended. This attack itself doesn't do that much damage, but immediately after she does it, she does an untelegraphed tank buster where she hits the main tank 5 times. So, yeah, fuck it. We don't want to deal with that, just invuln. Immediately after that goes off, Naga takes the boss. And we're going into, quite frankly, the hardest 2 minutes of content this game has to offer. I have really conflicting opinions about this phase, Nael phase, because when you go into it where no one knows what they're doing and everyone is progging at the same time, it is a fucking nightmare. When everyone knows what they're doing, it can be kind of interesting, like, ooh, how's it gonna go this time? But it is literally the most random 2 minutes of content this game has. You're about to see why. She's casting Bahamut's Favor, which doesn't necessarily do anything on its own. It does give Nael this damage buff here, which is just, I mean, it's whatever. Nael just does more damage, I guess. What it also did was summon these 5 dragons around the edge of the screen. You can only see like 1 here, you can see 1 here, kind of behind my party list. They can show up literally in any 5 random spots. Their location right now doesn't matter, but it will matter later. Right now, just the fact that they exist at all is kind of the problem. So, now we're entering random combat. 2 random people get targeted for lightning. What this is a debuff that in, I want to say like 5 seconds, you are about to explode with this thunder AoE around you. If anyone else gets hit by it, it is going to paralyze them with the same aggressive paralysis that I mentioned earlier. So you really don't want to hit anybody else with this. If it only hits you, that's fine. You don't get paralyzed for your own thunder debuff, it's other people. At the same time, Nael is doing this quote mechanic, "O hallowed moon, shine you the iron path." Let me bring up the guide explanation for what these are, because honestly I don't know. I mean, I know what they are, but it's like, so the way this works is Nael has several mechanics that she's about to do that are indicated not by a cast bar or by the name of the ability, but what she says in this text box. It is not spoken out loud like in a vocal sense. You either have to read this text box or read it once it appears in your game chat, you know, the one that I have covered right now. Or third option, you have someone install a cactbot trigger that tells you she's doing, in this case, Lunar Dynamo into Iron Chariot. You can tell generally because it's like, if you see O, that's Dynamo. If you see Iron, that's Iron Chariot. So you can get good at parsing it real quick, honestly, but it can be really hard to notice in the heat of battle. In this particular quote, she always does Lunar Dynamo first, which is a big donut, so we all need to be in close. The second one she does on this particular quote is random. It can either be everyone needs to move out for Iron Chariot, or everyone needs to stack up together with, Thermionic Beam. In this case, we got Dynamo to Chariot. Oh, shit. I was on the wrong window. So, in this case, the two Thunders are going to stack up north because there is a Dynamo. There's not a lot of room to work with. We don't want people to, like, take their Thunders, like, way out to the edges, because then they're about to get hit by this fucking donut. So we stick the two Thunders up to the north of Nael. Because we know Iron Chariot is going off next, we all immediately get out. At the same time, someone is getting targeted for this Fire Tether, and you may notice that a lot of players have these Ice debuffs. So, this is where the dragons start coming into play. One of these 5 dragons is pelting people with ice balls completely randomly. As long as no one dies, like, everyone gets hit at a pretty slow rate. But again, like the same with the meteor streams, if someone dies, people are going to start getting hit faster because they're getting hit by ice balls being intended for other players, and it causes a lot of problems. The way it works is kind of like a mathematical equation. If you have no debuffs, like I do, I currently have no debuffs. If I got hit by an ice, I get 1 ice debuff. If I got hit by an ice ball while I have an ice debuff, I die. However, there's also this Fire Tether. This also targets a random player, but when this does go off, it's going to create an AoE around the targeted player, so several people can get hit by this at once. If you get hit by the Fire Tether when you have no debuff, you get a Fire debuff. If you get hit by a Fire Tether while you have a Fire debuff, die. But if you get hit by a Fire Tether while you have an Ice debuff, the Ice debuff is cleansed, and if you get hit by an Ice ball while you have a Fire debuff, the Fire debuff is cleansed. So you're kind of trying to balance out how hot and cold you are. You know, when you have some soup that's like a little bit too cold, and you put it in the microwave for a little bit too long, and it's a little bit too hot. You're trying to find that balance in the middle. You don't want it to be too cold. You don't want it to be too hot. You gotta get that balance. The way we kind of handle this is because we know the general rate at which people are getting hit by ice balls. The tether order we do is first tether is in, second tether is out, third tether is in, fourth tether is in. So in, out, in. And the only change you make to that is on the second one. If you were the one that had the tether and you had to move out, you just don't get in for the third one. As this is resolving, there's also these white puddles that are spawning underneath players, and after that puddle explodes, you can see the explosion there, it'll kill you if you're standing in it. Once it explodes, it leaves this smaller white puddle. This is a debuff I currently have. It is the Doom debuff. Mine was for 10 seconds, so I don't want that one. This one belongs to Mickey. She was the other player that got targeted for Doom. You're going to notice that in this clip, she doesn't actually get it, and she dies. But I'm going to do it properly, so here's how it works. I move out of this puddle so it doesn't explode and kill me, but then I go step in the smaller one to cleanse the Doom puddle. And that's just how it works. If you don't cleanse it, you die. If you do cleanse it, great. Fantastic. Nael is doing another untelegraphed tank buster, the Bahamut's Claw, that hits 5 times. I take Nael, not because a tank swap is needed, but just to kind of lighten the load on defensives. Naga is now out of defensives. I am taking the boss because I have several left available. I am also the one targeted for the fire tether in this particular case, so I am moving outside of the rest of the party because everyone else has already gotten hit by the first tether, which they needed, and they don't need the second one. If someone does need the second one because they happen to miss the first one for whatever reason, they can come join me. They know where to find me. The second one always goes into the same spot. At the same time, thunders are going off again. So once the fire goes off, the 2 thunders spread out just so they don't cleave the rest of the party. Nael is doing another quote. So we've already seen essentially everything Nael does, but it's all super rapid fire. It's all super random. In this case, she's doing, I believe, everyone stacks for Thermionic Beam, and then again there is an iron for Iron Chariot. So everyone's going to stack up together, and then everyone's going to move out because there's another Iron Chariot. And then she's going to go right into another quote. Oh, no, wait. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. She's going into Doom. Again, this time it targets another 2 players. Then she does Thunders again. Then she does another Fire Tether. Then she's going to do another Untelegraphed Tank Buster after all this resolves. So because I had the second Tether, I stayed out of that Fire Tether stack. There's the Tank Buster. Now she's going into quote. So from on high I descend, Iron Path to walk. The first one in this particular quote is always she dives on someone randomly. So we all spread out. We don't need to spread out super far from each other. This attack does cleave a little bit, but it's not particularly big. So she's going to jump on a random player. Bunk. So she jumped on set. The second mechanic is out, Iron Chariot, so everyone immediately moves out. Again, Fire Tether is going out. As we come back in, Thunders go off, so I have a Thunder debuff, so I'm moving away from the party. Dooms go out. This time it's targeting 3 players. It's chaos. This literally all this phase is just complete uncontrollable chaos. It's how well can you manage all of these random mechanics going off at once, because it always targets completely random players. There are times where like it does try to like spread them out sort of equally among players, but it's still random. There are times where like I realize I go through the first set of Doom puddles, I'm like, I didn't get any Doom or Thunder. I go through the second set and I realize I don't get any Doom or Thunder, and I go, okay, I'm probably about to get every mechanic here in this final stretch. And yes, you can get like every mechanic at once. You can have a Fire Tether and the Thunder debuff. So it's like, I need to stay close to the party to make sure everyone gets hit by the fire, but then I need to immediately get super far away to make sure I don't hit anyone with my Thunder. But then I also need to go get my Doom puddle, which is just right next to the party, and it's a disaster. It's extremely hard to manage. Honestly, this is the hardest. That was like the hardest stretch of 2 minutes in this entire fight, in my opinion. Just because it's straight up hard. There is another mechanic later that I think is more bullshit, but we'll get there. Nael does a tank buster, much like Death Sentence from Twin. This gives a piercing resistance down. This forces a tank swap. My video is about to get super janky and stuttery. This is not a problem with the stream. This is not a problem with the video. This is literally how my game was performing in this fight for some reason. We're going into dive bombs. Right now, the location of the dragons does matter. So there's my first video stutter. So one player gets targeted for this green marker. You can kind of see it right here. The way this mechanic works, this is where I'm about to bring up my fucking sportscaster John Madden bullshit ass whatever. So there's like a dragon here, there's a dragon here. I don't know offhand where the other dragons are, but The dragons can spawn. I'm gonna draw like a little diagram over here. So this is the arena, right? Let's do it here. There's more space over here. This is the arena, right? Here's all of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 of us. There's Nael right here. Haha, that's Nael. The dragons can spawn in literally any configuration. In this case, we at least have 2 here. Let's just say the others are like here, here, and here. I could watch the video, but fuck it. It's funner this way. So, they can spawn literally in any 5 random cardinals or intercardinals. And the way these dive bombs work is starting from north. Let me just do that. Starting from north up here, going clockwise indicates the numbers of the dragons. So, there is no dragon here, so this means this is dragon 1. This is dragon 2. This is dragon 3. This is dragon 4. This is dragon 5. 3 dive bomb markers are about to go off, and the way the dive bombs work is the first 2 dragons are tied to the first dive bomb marker. The second dive bomb marker only counts for the 3rd dragon, and the 3rd dive bomb marker counts for the 4th and 5th dragon. So we're gonna put the first dive bomb marker here, so that way the dragon at 1 charges down this way towards the dive bomb, and the dragon at 2 dives up this way, away as much away from the rest of the party as possible. In this case, the second dragon could probably go either here or here. Probably want it over here just to make sure that they are safe from these dives going off over here, just to make sure the dive gets pointed in this direction. And then again, 4 and 5 would probably get stuck here just to make sure that they get stuck like this. You just want to try to control these dives away from the middle as much as possible. But again, these dragons can spawn in like as many cursed patterns as you can imagine. Like they can like all be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're just like, okay, great. It can be, you can have it actually, so it's like the first dragon shows up hard north as you would expect, and the second one doesn't show up going clockwise until all the way south, right? But these are still considered dragon 1 and dragon 2. So in order to do it, you have to stick your dive bomb here, and it just makes it super wide. It just makes it so it's like these dive bomb trails are actually extremely wide, and it's very easy to get clipped by them. Anyway, that's a rough breakdown on how dive bombs work. That was a fun little use of my little system here. So 1 dive bomb is getting stuck over here. 2nd dive bomb is going somewhere south. 3rd dive bomb is getting stuck somewhere over west. Oh, as these dive bombs are going off too, Nael is throwing. Let's watch this first dive bomb marker over here. I know I look away for a sec because I'm repositioning. So Nael just shot this orb. What this is hypernova. You'll see it again as I turn around. There's these hypernova puddles here. It's sort of like Liquid Hill in the sense that when you initially get hit by this, it doesn't really do any damage, but if you stay in it, you're just going to die. It puts a heavy bleed on you, and you're just fucked. So you just don't want to stay in your spots as long as you need to. The only thing this really affects is it makes it so if you are the second dive bomb, rather than just standing on where you're expected to stand and wait for the dive bomb to get locked onto you, you need to bait the hypernova that you're going to get targeted by out first and then move into your spot, because these hypernovas target the furthest player away from Nael. Oh, anyway, that's dive bombs. They're about to go off. So yeah, there was those 2. You can see like they're pretty chunky. They hit kind of like this entire quadrant up here. The ones behind us are about to go off. Yeah, there goes the one behind us. Nael jumped away and then dives on the main tank. And then at this point, either it's going to be a stack, which we just got on this particular case. There's a quote for it, I believe. Yeah, so as she's doing dive bombs, she's also doing a quote. Fleeting light, neath the red moon, scorch you the earth. I believe neath the red moon is her targeting the main tank, and then the next quote is either going to be scorch you the earth which is everyone stacks up together, or it is whatever quote it is that means everyone needs to spread apart because meteor streams are going to go off and target 4 or 5 random players. And you want to make sure none of those players are getting hit by more than one. So, dive bombs get placed, hypernovas get baited, main tank gets jumped, which you don't want to be near because it cleaves. Everyone stacks up to take that damage. Then she does another untelegraphed Bahamut's Claw. And that's Nael. She has some more quotes after that. Our damage was good enough to skip those quotes. But she'll do like 2 more sets of quotes into a forced tank swap if you don't do enough damage. And then into Enrage, I think. Nael is extremely hard to get consistent. It honestly took us... It's probably like at least a month until we could confidently say we got this phase. It only took us a few days to kind of see the end of the phase. It took us longer than that to see the end consistently, and it took us longer than that to get through without deaths. You can limp through and recover a lot of stuff in this fight, which does make, future mechanics harder, but, you can get away with some mistakes. But it took a while for us to stop making a lot of mistakes here. Then everyone goes and stacks up on 2 for the next phase. Oh boy, uh-oh. Is that the sun? Let me get... So the sun drops on you, because of course it does. This is the transition into Bahamut. It just does a whole bunch of raid-wide damage, and that's honestly kind of it. It takes a tank LB3. You can survive with an LB2. This was the mechanic that actually we were... earlier in the fight, I said we want to make sure we have enough LB to survive. This is where you ideally want tank LB3, because the sun pulses a whole bunch and just does a bunch of raid-wide damage. You can survive with LB2, honestly. Even when we purposely tried to farm LB, there are still just a bunch of pulls where we just didn't have enough for whatever reason. And as long as the healers know about it ahead of time, like you notice ahead of time, hey, we don't have enough LB, we're not going to by the end of Nael, they can just prepare for it and just heal and mitigate more, honestly. So, this is Bahamut. He immediately opens with Flare Breath, which is this big conal attack. It does a bunch of damage. You do not want to be near the tank. And then he does Flatten, which is his own tank buster. Unlike Nael, unlike Twin, this does not force a tank swap. It just does a bunch of damage. No debuff. But Naga is currently playing Paladin for this fight. She's using Hallowed Ground. She takes no damage. Whatever. If you remember Uwu, if you remember T, there was a lot of mechanics that involved the other bosses joining in and lending a helping hand. UCoB is no exception. Bahamut leaves the arena many times in this fight to do trio attacks with his 2 best friends in the whole wide world. So right out of the gate, we have Quick March Trio. Everyone stacks up in the middle. All the bosses leave, and then they show up in any random direction. So in this case, they showed up southeast. They always show up in a line. In this order, I think the order of them doesn't matter, but they do show up, all 3 of them together in one direction. Everyone splits up 4 per side, and then everyone splits up kind of spread out too, because as these 3 are casting their dive attack, they're all about to dive across the screen. As that finishes, we all get targeted for twisters, and you don't want to get hit by Twister. Twisters just show up several times in this fight. Again, if you're standing in that little green puddle, you die, and you take out anyone with you. As that dive goes off, Bahamut was also casting Mega Flare, which does several things. First off is it targets 4 players with these big-ass AoE markers. They're placed on the ground, you just move out of it. Simple. The 4 DPS are also targeted with these diamond markers. What this means is one of these 4 players are randomly going to get hit by an attack that needs to be soaked with other players. So essentially what that means is all 4 of these people stack up together and share that damage together. Easy. The only reason I kind of specified that it actually technically only targets one of these players is there are sometimes a case when you're trying to recover a lost pull where you just have to try to send one of these diamond markers away and hope for the best, because we need a body to go stand over there for a second, hope that they're not the one targeted for the attack. At the same time, all 6 non-tanks, I believe, get targeted for this fucking explosion. There's no rhyme or reason for this. They just explode for no reason. So again, series of events. Everyone spreads out to avoid their twister, avoids this dash, gets out of the way of their twister, 4 AoEs, 4 markers, everyone explodes. So that all happens pretty quick. Bahamut comes back, and we all bunch up to the best of our ability. All 4 DPS are going to get in the relative south position of where the dive was. So the dive came from, this direction where me and the tank were. The DPS are just going to try to stack down here. They're not going to try to stack behind Bahamut because he could honestly be facing any direction. We just try to keep it as relative to the dash as we can. So all 4 of the DPS that have this explosion, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second because I'm thinking about future mechanics. All 4 of these Mega Flare markers try to get into the middle, right? Not the middle, but behind Bahamut. At the same time, 3 players are getting targeted for this Earth Shaker. Here's the marker down here on Sizzle. So the Mega Flare markers, I think, are currently going off. Yeah, so you can kind of see it right there. Let me roll it back real quick. So, watch these 4 right here. These beams coming down, that was the Mega Flare. So the Mega Flare has gone off. So now there is Earth Shakers and there is Tempest Wing Tethers. Just roll this back. There's a lot going on in this mechanic. So there's these Earth Shaker markers, right? You can see one here on Sizzle, you can see one here on Leon, and there's probably one back here somewhere I can't see. The way this works is all 3 of these players are about to get targeted for a huge conal attack. The attack itself, honestly, doesn't do that much damage, much like Hypernova, much like Liquid Hell. However, it also drops a puddle underneath you, and you need to move out of it as quickly as possible. We do want to make sure we don't hit any of the DPS if we don't have to. It's fine to hit the tanks because the tanks have so much more HP. The way this works is it always targets 2 healers and a random DPS, I believe. So the 2 healers are going to spread out towards the edges, and the DPS that randomly gets targeted for it is going to take it full north. At the same time, me and the tank are dealing with these green tethers. They're hard to see. So much going on in this mechanic. You can kind of see one right here. Right here. So between Bahamut, this green line going into the stack of DPS. One of these random DPS have it. What this tether is when the tether resolves, it does a bunch of damage to the targeted player and an AoE around them. So we don't want it to hit any of the DPS. This is something that tanks need to take. This tether is, much like the rest of this fight, super janky and fucked up, and it's really hard to just pick it up sometimes. It targets 2 random players, and both me and the tank had to look around and go, okay, I'm going for that one, and go over and pick it up. As we're going out to pick it up, here come the Earth Shakers. So these are the Earth Shakers going off. It honestly covers like a quarter of the arena each. So that's 3/4 of the arena all being hit by this Earth Shaker, because there's the one on the healer up here, the one on the healer down here, and the one on the DPS up here. It's fine for, like I said, me and the other tank to stand in it because we're tanks. Right after that goes off, here comes the Tempest Wings, so it creates these big tornadoes on me and the other tank. That is the tether mechanic. We have picked it up from the DPS that it was targeting, and we took it away safely. These puddles are the puddles that are left behind from Earthshaker. You don't want to stand in it or you die, and that's really all there is to it. Bahamut does another Flare Breath, the Conal Tank Buster, and he does another Flatten. This is where we tank swap, not because we quote-unquote have to, but just to share the load on defensives. And then we're going into the next trio, Blackfire. Just grab a drink of water. Bahamut was honestly only targetable for like 30-some... Every time Bahamut comes back from a mechanic, he's honestly only targetable for like 30 seconds before he leaves again. It makes planning your rotation in this fight honestly pretty complicated and just janky and fucked up. But we're going into Blackfire. So the way this mechanic works is we all stack middle and we look for Nael. So they always spawn in a triangle. Let me pull up my sportscaster setup. The way it works is they always spawn in a triangle. So in this case, Bahamut spawned here. There will always be a boss over... Hard to see, but down here, sorry, my screen is a little fucked up, over here, and then like another boss down here. So in like a triangle formation. Nael is always to the right of Bahamut, to the left of Twin. So I'm going to turn to the right, there's Nael, easy. It is important that we find Nael, because what's about to happen is several things. You can see that one of us get targeted for this marker right here, this red marker. This is Bahamut's dive marker. The way the dive bombs worked in the Nael phase with the dragons is you got targeted for the marker, you went to where you wanted to go. So let's say the dragon was here where Nael was. We wanted the dragon to dive this way. That's a really crappy arrow. So we would just place the dive bomb marker here. The dive bomb would just waddle over, stand there, wait for the dive bomb marker to go away, and then walk back. That's not how Bahamut's dive works. As soon as Bahamut's dive marker shows up, Bahamut is already locked into dashing this way. So that's why we all stack up in the middle, just to guarantee that Bahamut is going to dive through the middle of the arena. We're looking for Nael, just to have a consistent direction to walk in, right? So, what's going to happen here is we're all going to walk to Nael together as a group. Meanwhile, Twintania over here somewhere is throwing fire puddles at us. So that's why we need to move as a group to make sure that we all move out of the fire puddles as they're showing up under our feet. And we want to stay together as a group because Nael is going to do the stack marker beam again, thermionic beam. So, we locate Nael. As soon as we see the first liquid hell come off, we all start moving together as a group towards Nael. Nael does her stack. That's why we want to make sure that we're all together. And then we all split up. There was Bahamut's dash through the middle of the arena. I'm going to play that back again, because there's some more mechanics coming up. So, we all move together as a group. Stack goes off. Bahamut dashes through the middle of the arena. As this goes off, 4 towers show up, and 4 players get targeted for the Mega Flare diamond markers again, right? So the way this works is the Mega Flares don't all target DPS this time. It can be, it's always 2 DPS, a healer, and a tank. So this is the tank assigned tower, this is the healer assigned tower, and the other 2 are sorted out by the DPS. However the fuck they handle it, I'm not the DPS, I didn't pay attention to how they organized that system. But all of the 4 Mega Flares are going to go stand over here, just behind where we started the stack, while everyone who was not targeted for the Mega Flare goes and stands in their tower. So I didn't get targeted, so I'm waiting for the tower. I don't go in it right away because the Nael is still here. She's about to throw Hypernovas. So she throws a Hypernova, and then a second Hypernova. After she throws a second, you're safe to move into the tower. You just want to make sure that you're not going to bait a Hypernova into your tower so you don't bleed to death before your tower goes off. you can see you have a little bit of leniency on when Hypernova kills you. You can see that as the Mega Flares come stack up back here, one of them gets targeted for the Hypernova. That's fine. They just wait a hot sec for this Mega Flare to go off, and everyone just immediately moves out. It's a little bit lenient. You don't want to get too greedy, but it's a bit lenient. The towers go off, still throwing some Hypernovas, and Bahamut comes back for Giga Flare. Giga Flare is just a raid-wide AoE that gets mitigated and healed. No problem. Everyone stands away from all these Hypernovas I got placed in random spots. I'm in control of the boss. He's going to do 3 Flare Breaths, so no one wants to be near me. Another tank swap, just to share the load. And then we're going into Fel Ruin Trio. Honestly, the easiest trio of the I almost said the 3. There's way more than 3 trios. I don't know why I almost said 3. Honestly, the easiest trio of the fight. So again, the bosses show up. They all spawn in a triangle formation on where we place the 3 Neurolinks. I don't know if they always spawn on Neurolinks. I don't think they do. No, I think they just happen to always spawn in this configuration. This is just also where we happen to put the Neurolinks. The Neurolinks are important for this mechanic. So, we all go group up around Nael. Nael is doing another quote. It's always going to be either Dynamo into her diving on a random player, or it's going to be her diving into Dynamo. It's always those 2 mechanics. It's just random which one happens first. In this case, it looks like it was a Dynamo into dive, so we all just get super cozy underneath her. I'm popping sprint because pretty shortly I'm going to need to get to this Neuralink over here. So she does her Dynamo. At the same time, Bahamut is doing the Tempest Wing tethers, so I need to go pick one up. You can see it's extremely responsive. Let me show you how responsive that was. Now that you know I'm going to go pick it up, watch it like lock onto someone else as I go try to pick it up. It's just... It's fine in this case because we want to end the mechanic with Naga in this Neuralink, I am in this Neuralink, and everyone else in this Neuralink. And we've got time as tanks to go get to our Neuralinks while Nael is doing her dive. In cases where she does dive first into Dynamo, everyone still needs to stay up close together. I need to just like... It has so much more potential to lock onto random players because they just happen to be closer to the tether than I was because I am bunched up with them. And I need to close the distance between Neuralinks in a lot less time because I needed to be closer longer. Anyway. So she does her dive. She dived onto Naga. It's fine. No one cares who she targets. Everyone just gets another Neuralink because there's this big raid-wide going off. Etheric Profusion. If you weren't in a Neuralink, you die. That's really all there was to it. That's the only time this mechanic shows up. This raid-wide in particular. So, it's fine. And then all the DPS and healers, you can't really see because I don't look at them. They all need to spread out after that raid wide goes off because everyone gets targeted for meteor streams. Not everyone, like 4 random players. Again, you just want to make sure that you don't get unlucky and a couple of them overlap each other and kill people. But in that short window, I am taking that big raid wide damage. I am taking this Tempest Wing, and I am taking a meteor stream, I believe, in this case. So yeah, I got hit by Meteor Stream, and Bahamut's doing a Giga Flare, so a lot of damage is going out in a short period of time. It's just a bit random who it targets. I happen to get hit by all of it, because of course I did. That's fine, I'm the tank. That's my job. Nothing crazy or flashy in the stretch to the next trio. It's just a Flare Breath, you know, the Clonal Tank Buster, into Flatten, into, I believe, another Flare Breath. I think 3 Flare Breaths, actually. One. No, just one. I'm thinking of later. So, he's going into Heaven's Fall Trio, which is honestly my favorite mechanic in the entire fight. It's great. I love it. It just feels super good to pull off. So everyone gets to the middle. The 3 bosses all show up at a random edge of the arena. So I'm going to pull up my sportscaster setup, because this is going to take a little bit of explaining if you want to like really understand what's going on here. So I'm going to borrow the space down here. So here's the arena again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's the 8 of us all saying. I think I drew more than 8 players, so that's fine. The 3 bosses can show up in any random spot. For argument's sake, let's just say they showed up here north. They can honestly show up anywhere. You need to locate where they are. They can show up in any configuration. It can be Nael, Bahamut, Twin, Nael, Twin, Bahamut, Bahamut, Nael, Twin, like any configuration. The configuration itself doesn't super matter. It does kind of alter how much room you have to work with. We're going to try to do the quick march thing again, where 4 players go off to this side, 4 players go off to the other side. Because 2 dive bomb markers have showed up. Twin's dive bomb, which... So, the dragon dive bombs, right, in Nael phase, they show up, but they don't lock in until the dive bomb marker goes away. There is the Bahamut dive bomb marker, which is in this group somewhere. It's probably behind the twin dive bomb marker. You just can't really see it. It's like this red hue back here or something. It locks in as soon as it shows up. So Bahamut is already locked into dashing across the screen. Twin marker looks exactly like the dragon dive bomb markers, but it also operates like Bahamut's dive bomb. So Twin is also already locked into diving across the stage. That's why we all stack mid. So both of these 2 are already locked into diving across. Nael does not dive. She's going to do some other bullshit later. Because Nael does not dive, that means those of us going onto this side have some room to work with. Like, because I am the topmost on my side, I can just run straight up to Nael and it's fine. I don't need to run over here. And it's good that I don't, because Bahamut is dashing across this way. If I stood there, these 3 would have less to work with. If Nael spawns in the middle, what happens is the 2 tanks and I think 2 DPS that are like the bottom most of their sides, rather than like spreading out like this, like let's pretend this was Nael and this was Twin, rather than going to the side of Twin, I would go up here to this side of Twin, and Naga, the other tank, would go to this side of Bahamut and like take this spot in the X formation, because Twin is diving like this, Bahamut's diving like this. It's just some interesting minor bullshit of how this works that I like talking about. Anyway, so we've located the bosses. Let me bring my video back up. I'm going to go straight towards Twin. Sizzle, if he's still in chat, starts to go the wrong fucking way. Thankfully, he notices quick enough and it adjusts. The 2 bosses do their dash. There is a twister here. Everyone needs to make sure to move out of the way, because there's like a twister here. There's another twister over here. As we all dodge these twisters, 8 towers show up around the edge of the arena. God, I love these towers. There's also these 4 mega flare markers, which again are not important, so we just bait them to the edge and then move back towards the middle. So, the towers, this is my favorite mechanic of the entire fight. The towers show up in literally any random direction. So again, let me steal a space down here. Let me make a better circle. There we go. The towers show up in any 8 random spots. Ours were honestly pretty uncursed. So let's say Nael is always our anchor to organize this. Nael was still here as this mechanic was going. Let me just wind it back like a second. She is currently this big red orb. I just want to make her more visible. So, Nael is here. She is our anchor. So let's say Nael is our north relative, right? In our case, like there's like a tower here. Let's just, our towers are honestly pretty uncursed, so I'm just gonna spread them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How this works is from Nael, counting clockwise, we number the towers 1, 2, 3, etc. Right? I am tower 1, so I am looking for the tower that is 1 clockwise from Nael. Pretty easy to find. Other people have more difficult jobs. People who have like the 4 have to like look at Nael and then go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and try to identify their tower and not get baited by like this waymark that is right next to a tower. There have been times where like this A marker is red, right? This B marker is yellow. Like some people just happen to misidentify those as towers and count over it, or try to go to that tower rather than their actual tower. You can get some super cursed tower patterns. So like 1, 2, 3, like you can have it where it's like the first tower doesn't even show up until like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, hold on. Okay, so it's not even straight up just like, so there are like degrees between the cardinals and inner cardinals, right? So you can have it so like the first tower doesn't even show up until like south. So like people start by looking at Nael and then just start rotating clockwise to look for their tower, and they're like, where the fuck is my tower? You just end up spinning around entirely. It's ridiculous. But in this case, our towers were honestly pretty uncursed. So there's my tower. It's right next to Nael because I'm number 1. We all kind of like, you don't want to go stand in your tower immediately. You want to get close-ish to the mid. Let's say roughly about as far away from the edge as we stood going into the transition into Nael, because weirdly enough, a big Heaven's Fall tower hits the middle of the arena and knocks us back. That's my favorite part of the whole fight. Just see it, like, getting knocked back into your tower and just seeing all the towers go off at the same time feels super good and satisfying. So, knock back. Boom. All those towers feel good. But it's not over, because now the Heaven's Fall tower is sinking, causing these thermionic burst AoEs to show up. They're about to rotate. It's either clockwise or counterclockwise. It's random, so you just want to like avoid them as they're going around. At the same time, Nael is throwing these hypernovas around the arena at players as they run. Everyone needs to get into the middle because Twintania has the stack marker fireball. Bahamut has the Giga Flare, so it's a lot of raid-wide damage going off at once. And then we go into 3 Flare Breaths. I take the boss. And then we're going into the worst mechanic of the entire fight. From the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. Folks, it's Tenstrike Trio. My understanding is statics will either get stuck on Heaven's Fall or they will get stuck on Tenstrike. And we happen to get stuck on Tenstrike. This mechanic is super buggy, super janky, super fucked up. This mechanic sometimes literally just does not function, and you just piss 10 minutes of your life away because of the time it took to get here. I will link, I don't have them available on hand right now, but I will link in the description when I put this up on YouTube, in the description, at least 3 different instances I've seen that this mechanic just doesn't work. Because I'll explain it as we see how this mechanic is supposed to work, because it worked for us here, and I'll explain how it doesn't work sometimes. So, this is Tenstrike. Oh, let's focus on the wrong window. There we go. So, we all line up. This is to identify these hatch markers. So, Twin shows up, right? Let me bring up my sportscaster. So, we're in a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These Twin targets 3 completely random players with hatch. and the way we line up indicates who's going to take what Neuralink, because it can target anyone, and we just want to be able to coordinate this easier. So whoever is the leftmost, in this case it was Hannah, she's going right into 1. Whoever is the middlemost, in this case it was, I can't really tell who's bunched up in there. It was Ian. It was a little hard to tell. Ian here, he's the one targeted. He's the middlemost, he's going down here to 3. And then Naga, as the rightmost, is going to go into 3. Or 2. That's another thing that's kind of fucked up, is this is 1, 3, and 2. But if you look at the Neuralinks in this direction, it's the leftmost, the middlemost, and the rightmost, right? These players are actually going to get targeted for 2 hatches. So the way this is going to work is, for example, Naga as the person in the rightmost is going to go to 2. She's going to take her hatch. The hatch is going to go to the middle and then hit her there. And then after she eats her first hatch, because the hatch puts the debuff on the player that says, hey, you can't take a second one of these or you will die, she is still being targeted for a second hatch. She's just going to move directly out to the edge, and then someone else, like Set, is going to move in and take her place. And, like, stand in the way of the hatch that is targeting her. The way this mechanic is super fucked up and janky is that hatches in this game don't work, just period, in ways that are hard to describe. So we all spread out. We also need to, like, make sure we're spread out, because at the same time there's these meteor streams going off. So I have a perfect point of view here for the 3. So you can see, oh, there we go. I was wondering why there's like this white edge on the side of my screen, but I fixed it. You can see whoever here is here on 2 moved out, right? Sizzle moved in. The second hatch is going in to follow Naga or whoever. Oh, it was Ian who took that one. I got my, I don't give a shit. I can't identify people anymore. This hatch was moving from middle to follow Ian as he moves out. There have been a lot of times where this particular hatch, rather than going in a straight line, just goes literally just like that. I've got videos of it. I'll put it in the description. You can see for yourself how stupid it is. There are other, this has never happened to us, but I have seen clips where, like, the hatch will just go and just bounce back and forth and never, like, actually commit to any direction. Like, this mechanic just literally does not function sometimes, which is unforgivable. You should not have a ultimate fight that demands precision to even get it 10 minutes into this fight and then just have a bug that, it's so bad. It's so irritating. It happened to us, this particular instance of just like, happened to us so much in Prague. We have literally lost hours and hours of our lives to getting to this point, and then just having the game go, no, thank you. I was like, cool, thank you. Anyway, so these hatches get resolved successfully. Everyone pops sprint, because as these second hatches go off, 4 completely random players get targeted for Earthshaker. You can see it was Ian, it was Hannah, it was Set, it was Mickey. The 4 of us who did not get targeted for Earthshaker are all coming down here to 3 to be in the safe area, because these 4 are going to try to spread out as much north as they can. But like I said earlier, like, this Earthshaker honestly hits like a quarter of the arena. This is already like dangerously close, because like this Earthshaker is going to hit Set like whoosh, like huge, and this other one is going to hit Mickey like and if you get hit by 2, you just die, because it puts a debuff on you that makes it so if you take a second Earthshaker, you just eat shit. It's kind of ridiculous. This is just extremely hard to gauge, hard to judge hard to adjust quickly, because you do not have a lot of time to register, like, who is getting targeted, where are those people standing, where should I go to avoid hitting people. Those of us down here in the south do have that, what's the word I'm looking for? Luxury. Those of us down here in the south, we get to just, like, go, okay, like, we're standing around this square, right? So, like, because I stood down here in the bottom left of the square, that's me telling the other players wordlessly, hey, I'm gonna go southeast, southwest. I can't tell my west and east part sometimes. Leon, he's gonna go west. Sizzle's gonna go east. This is our indication to each other how we're gonna spread out. So once those 4 shakers go off, whoosh, we almost got hit, honestly. The rest of us spread out. The 4 who just got hit are gonna bunch up on the north side of Bahamut to avoid getting hit by our Earth Shakers. And then he goes into Giga Flare. And that is Tenstrike, the worst mechanic in the entire fight. If anything, just because of how buggy and unforgiving it is. And do some tank busters. Flatten into triple Flare Breath? No, just a singular Flare Breath plus an auto or whatever. And we're going into Grand Octet. This mechanic is honestly pretty easy, and it's just made easier by the fact that we're about to cheese it with Tank Kill Beat. So, all the bosses leave. All the bosses reappear. You didn't actually see it in this clip because all 3 of the bosses just happen to spawn directly in my camera view. That's kind of ridiculous. So you can't really see it. You can kind of see it for like a split second. If you look like directly south of me, there's a dragon that comes and lands. There he was. You can see it for like 2 frames. So let me pull up the Sportscaster sit up. So the way this is gonna work, we have our arena. These dragons, the same 5 dragons from Nael's phase all show up, and then all 3 bosses are also going to stand around the arena with them. Much like everything else in this fight, completely random. In our case, it happened to work out that it was like Bahamut, what was it, Twin Nael Botanist? Curious now, was it Botanist? Yep, we had a botanist set up, cool. And then there's like dragon. They can spawn in literally any configuration. It could be like Bahamut over here, Nael up here, Twin down here. Literally any cardinal or intercardinal can have dragon, Bahamut, Twin, or Nael. In this case, this is what we got. So we all stack metal to quickly identify where the bosses are. We're looking in particular for Bahamut. Because he spawned northwest of us, we're going to go to the opposite side of him. So wherever Bahamut shows up, in this case it was up here, we're going to go to the opposite side of him. I'm going to take all this down because it's probably going to be easier to explain once I turn my camera in-game. We're looking for his opposite side. We have time to identify. Nothing happens for a few seconds. So we're standing here in the middle, we're waiting for a dive bomb marker to appear over our head. The first dive bomb marker that appears is going to be Nael's dive bomb. And as soon as that shows up, that means she is, much like the other bosses, already locked into place. So once we see the first dive bomb marker, we're going to move across from Bahamut. If Nael was the person that was right here, which she is not, but if she is, we would not move directly in front of her because she is the first person to dive. So instead, we would either move over here or over here, depending on whether Bahamut was cardinal or intercardinal. In this case, Bahamut is on an intercardinal. Because he is on inter, what this means is after we move here and after Nael dives, we're going to rotate to the right, clockwise. So this is intercardinal. If he was on a cardinal, so let's say he was on the north, we would instead rotate counterclockwise, right? And that's how we would identify if Nael was here. In this case, we would instead go to this dragon rather than up over here, because we can't be in front of Nael. So, we wait for the dive bomb marker to show up. Dive bomb marker, we move up to the dragon. Once we see Nael's dive go off, it just went off. You can kind of see it over here. Show it again. So right over here on the right-hand side of the screen. Whoosh, there was Nael's dive. We start rotating, and we just rotate. We're just happen to be baiting, like all these dive bomb markers are showing up. These are the dive bomb markers for all of the dragons. It just so happens to work out that the timing they show up as we rotate locks them in a direction that just points them outside of the arena, and we don't have to worry about them. We sprint at a certain point. After a little bit, the Bahamut marker shows up. That means he's already locked into place, and that means he is the second to last person to dive, so we're good to go into the middle of the arena. And then this is where we cheese. What's about to happen is 4 towers are going to show up, and 4 random players to get targeted from Mega Flare. One final player, in this case Leon. This is dictated by whichever player did not receive any dive bomb marker during the rest of Grand Octet, is the person that Twin is going to target. So in this case, Leon received no dive bomb. That means Twin is going to dive on him. So he wants to point Twin outside of the arena. This is where we cheese it with a tank LB. Rather than have try to quickly identify which 4 players have Mega Flare, where are they going to take their Mega Flare away from the rest of the party, what other 4 players are going to get the towers, because the person who has the Twin marker is also going to need to either resolve the Mega Flare stack or resolve a tower, and it's a lot to handle at once. It's way easier to just burn tank LB, and just Hannah got hit by the Mega Flare, she doesn't care. Like, whatever, just cheeses one mechanic. Spend all of tank LB just to save one person, because fuck it. Twin dive goes off. We all need to make sure that we're moving, because there's a random twister at the end of that. So you can see we're kind of running around in circles in our towers. Tower goes off, we move, and then there's some random twisters here on the field. Now we're into ads phase. This is an extremely hard phase, not in the sense that the phase itself is that difficult. It is, don't get me wrong, it's quite challenging, because you are now fighting Twin and Nael at the same time, and they have the same mechanics that they did earlier in the fight. It's just less random, which makes it easier, because everything happens on a very strict schedule and targets generally pretty specific players. But this is now like, what, 12, 13 minutes into the fight? Probably, I think 12 minutes into the fight. Yeah, 12 minutes. It's so hard to get here to be able to practice it, which just makes it a very hard wall. So, both tanks are going to take one of these 2 bosses. They're not going to do anything that we haven't seen before. I take Twin, Naga takes Nael. They're both going to open with Plummet and Bahamut's Claw, which are the untelegraphed tank busters that don't force a tank swap. Twin is going to go right into Liquid Hell, so these need to be baited by someone far away. She goes into Triple Generate, which is the hatches, so she's making 3 hatches. It targets 3 random DPS. Things are going to get hard to see because we're right next to Bahamut, who is glowing very, very bright, so sometimes my camera just gets covered in yellow and you can't see shit. But Twin is currently generating 3 hatches. It targets 3 random DPS, so that means 1 DPS needs to adjust to which hatch they're going to need to go to. As these Neurolinks, because these hatches need to be taken in the Neurolinks. As these hatches are going out, she is also casting Twister, which again targets 4 random players, so you want to make sure you're moving as those hatches go off. Nael goes into Quotes, so in this case we had, I think, in, out, and spread, so we all get into Nael, we move out away from Nael, and then we all just make sure we're spread because she's going to dive on a random player. As the dive went on, was it a dive? It looks like it was. Let me just roll it back real quick. I was staring at Twin's health bar. I didn't even notice where Nael went. As Nael finishes her quotes, Twin goes right into Twister. So there was out. Yeah, and then Nael jumped all the way up here to some random player. Twin is now doing Twister. So this can get pretty rude because the quotes are random. There's, I think, only like 6 different combinations she can do, or maybe even like 4. Don't quite remember how it works out. There's a certain amount of combinations she can do. In this case, getting a spread as the final mechanic is pretty convenient because it goes right into a Twister. If the final mechanic was stack up and then it goes into Twister, then it gets pretty spooky because everyone is trying to run away from each other and not drop their Twisters on each other. But in this case, we're already spread out, so it's pretty easy to avoid each other's Twisters. We bring the bosses back together. Nael is going to do a Mega Flare, which is, in this particular case, a raid-wide. Mega Flare does like 7 different things throughout this entire fight. In this case, it's a raid-wide. Then they're going to go into the tank busters that force a tank swap, so we both switch bosses. I am now in control of Nael. They do their untelegraphed tank busters, so I'm getting hit by the Bahamut's Claw. And then they just repeat. Twin does Liquid Hell again, so there's fire puddles being baited around the edge of the arena. She's going to triple generate some hatches, so she's making the hatches right now. Goes into Twister. And then we go into Nael quote again. So in this case, it was like out, stack, spread, I think. So we get away from her, stack together, and we spread out. And then Twisters again. At this point, we check the boss HP to see how equal they are. Much like T. No, actually, no, completely different. No, yeah, much like T. Sorry, I was thinking, when I was thinking of T, I was thinking of the Alex Prime phase, where both Cruz and Brute were doing Enrage. You had to kill one or the other. That's just how it worked. Much like in T with Brute Justice and Cruz Chaser, in that entire second phase, if you kill one, the other instantly starts casting Enrage. However, unlike Brute Justice and Cruz Chaser, where you could get maybe a few attacks in, if we kill like Nael here, you get like 1 GCD on Twin before you die. Like, the Enrage is super quick, so you want to make sure that you kill them as close together as possible. There's no more like movement mechanics at this point. It would just be like another tank swap into a raid wide into, I think, just hard Enrage, but we happened to kill them pretty quick. We lost a bunch of runs to just killing one boss before the other, and it was really disappointing. So we killed both of them, and that's that. We killed both of them. We're now down for the count. I'm good to turn off this music so I can put on something else. Oh, that's not where the music starts. Wait. He's casting... So we're all locked down because Bahamut is casting Terra Flare. No, we all dead. Uh-oh. Oh no. Well, we wiped. Time to start over. Phoenix's shrill cry cuts out, blah blah blah. This is the the prerequisite cutscene for every ultimate. Every ultimate needs a cutscene. Bahamut has finally entered a Golden Bahamut phase, and this is the phase that is going to require, honestly, the least amount of explanation, but it is also one of the most stressful final phases. Much like T, where the ending is kind of the victory lap, there's literally only 3 mechanics that Golden Bahamut has. But I mean, if you fuck up, you gotta go all the way back to the start, dude. So it gets pretty stressful. So he literally only has 3 mechanics. He has Morna Fa, which is a raid wide. It hits pretty hard. We have Organized Mitigation for it. Okay, we got through it. He has Akmorn, which is a shared tank buster. We are sharing this first one, so me and Naga both mitigate up. It hits 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Much like Akmorn in any other content, whether it be Shiva in Eden 8 Savage, or wherever the fuck else Akmorn shows up, I don't remember. I think it might just be these 2 fights, honestly. Each time Akmorn goes off, it hits 1 more successive time. So, in this case it hit 3, we shared it, we're good. And then he goes into Exaflares. Exaflares, that's easy. And honestly, I think that's what disappointed us the most, is that you research a Golden Bahamut phase and you're like, it's literally just 3 mechanics. It's a raid wide, it's a tank buster, it's an Exaflare. Easy. Like, easy clap, we're done. Like, we beat the fight as soon as we get there. No, these Exaflares are actually a little bit more rude than you would expect. They can show up in literally any random direction. So in this case, they came from the fucking southeast. And they show up they show up at like a random point in the cast bar too. So it's like, I'm gonna pause it as soon as I see one show up over here. Okay, literally like a bit over halfway into the cast bar, that's when they start showing up. It's ridiculous. So you want to get to the side of one. We're doing wall strat. There's a couple of different strategies you can do here. You can do just like stay in the middle and avoid it to the best of your knowledge. We do the safer strat, which is wall strat, which is just get up beside it and just move into it as it goes off, because that way you know you've resolved it and you're done. So we get to the side of it and then just move into it, and that's it. But the speed at which it shows up and the randomness at which it shows up is honestly pretty stressful. This is a solo tank buster for me. I cast Super Bullide, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I get hit 4 times. Done. He does another raid wide. And folks, you're not going to believe this. After the raid wide's done, he's going to do Exaflares again. This phase is mechanically uncomplicated, but the stress of getting through the hardest ultimate and knowing that if you die here, it's pretty much over. You can actually see, I have a buff on my bar here from Phoenix. I think it's this red one over here. When you get revived by Phoenix, you get a buff that makes it so you do double damage. I believe it's double damage. And if you die at any point in this phase, even if you get revived, you lose it. So if you ever die, not only are you competing with weakness, you also just do half as much damage on top of that. So it's pretty unforgiving. And if you get hit by an Exaflare but you don't die, you get a damage down. See Naga over here, who was a clown and stepped in an Exaflare. But it's fine. We're here talking about this fight. You know this video is the clear. It's fine. There was another raid wide into Buster into Exaflare right here. And then he's going to do it again. He's going to do raid wide into another shared Akmorn into a final Exaflare. So this is the raid wide. Mickey died because we called a silly Exaflare and she unfortunately did not adjust in time. Here's the shared Buster. We both invulned one, so this is the one that we're sharing with every mitigation we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Middle for X's. This is the final Exaflare. After this Exaflare is the final raid wide into Enrage. Dodge this one. Shows up in a completely random spot. It's also like really hard to see just because, like, look at this. You're trying to find these red and orange circles in a red and orange arena on a red and orange floor when this big badass chicken nugget is spitting fire everywhere. Like, It can just be so hard to find these extra player markers sometimes. It's so rude. That was the final Extra Flare. He's going to do the final raid wide. After the final raid wide, it's Enrage, which we all need to spread out for. I don't think we're going to see Enrage in this pull, but the way Enrage works is everyone spreads out and he hits everyone randomly, and like one hit kills you. Like, it's basically everybody gets hit by tank buster that cleaves, so you just want to make sure you're spread out. But that's it. Resistance is futile. UCoB is down. Triple legend acquired. I never want to do this fight again. So, my thoughts on this fight. I fucking hate it. I don't know. Oh god, let me just... I'm waiting for a good point to pause this video. Duty complete, yay. Yeah, whatever. Let me turn on... What's some good victory music I can turn on here? Victory fan... Victory extended... Extended... Here we go. Yay. I'm done with this fight. I really don't like this fight. I don't know how much of it is because of coming on... Let me just have Golden Bahamut playing again in the background instead of just bullshit about this stupid fight. I don't know how much of it is just having, like... I've literally done nothing the past 6 months in this game outside of just shotgun each ultimate back-to-back. I don't know how much of it is just me getting tired of ultimates, me having like way too much recency bias to like compare to. Like, I don't like this fight. I had music playing in the background this whole time. You were probably bored by it and didn't even notice. Is Answers a good song? Yes. Is it a good song to prog to? No, it is so anti-hype. It's just like, it's boring to listen to. The first 2 minutes of this fight are super easy compared to anything else in Ultimate that you spend the first 2 minutes of this fight just wanting to fall asleep. Immediately followed by some of the most random, bullshit, hard content that this game has just never done before and will continue. It's based off of antiquated game design. We don't design fights like we do in A Realm Reborn anymore because those fights were bad and poorly visually constructed and bad visual language. It's just like, we don't make fights like that anymore for a reason, and this is just a hard version of those. And then it's just on top of that, like, extremely buggy with Tenstrike. Like, again, check the description. I probably linked some videos, but holy shit, look at those buggy Tenstrikes. It's ridiculous that they got away with this. And then I don't know, this fight is just bad. I don't like it. I said it on Twitter when I was first starting to prog it. I feel like I still feel the same way. If this was the first ultimate I did, I would probably never do another ultimate again. So I'm glad I started with T, which was frankly the best. T is so good. It's so hype. But we've got like a week until our Ninja's sub runs out, so we're probably going to do some very casual re-clear attempts of this. We're going to do like maybe a lockout and not give a shit if we don't get a clear again. Most of us do not care about this fight. We'll see if a re-clear happens, and if it doesn't, it would just be nice to have extra totems, I guess, but not going to stress about it. Speaking of totems, oh man, I gotta show off the weapon that I bought. This isn't my weapon. Let me turn the music back on. Why? Yeah. This is the wrong glamour, but okay. There we go. Of course I got the axe. Of course I got the axe. It's the weapon that 2 years ago, before I even knew what extreme content was, I was like, hey, found this axe online. How do I get it? And I have it now. And I have the title, The Legend. Because I'm extremely good at this video game. And I'm fucking tired of ultimates, and I can't wait to not do any for a long time. Until the next one comes out. thank you for watching. Hopefully, these series of explaining the ultimate fights has bare minimum interested you or anyone into just going, I didn't know how this fight worked. Thank you for breaking it down. Or, haha, that's really mechanically interesting. I'm glad I saw it. Or, in some people's cases, maybe it helped you beat the fight. I don't know. I'm not your dad, and I'm not here to tell you how to do the fight or that you should do it. I'm just saying, here's how it works. It's content that I sort of enjoyed at some times, and I spent way too much time on it, and I just wanted to show people how it functioned. See you in half a year, whenever the next Ultimate comes out, and I beat that. The end. Goodbye.